So, as you can see, I'm Andy Prue, Divisional Liaison Librarian for Division of Human and Social Sciences, or in the true spirit of AI, a Cyberdyne Systems Model T1000 Multifunctional Library Support Unit, here to help you. Okay. So, libraries have been beset by change for millennia, from the Sumerian clay tablets that we managed to master, that was probably our Web 1.0, through to Egyptian papyrus, which you can see here in the grand old libraries of Alexandria, and also the advent of the European printing press and the growth of many libraries still. We were then faced by dial-up and disk access to information, including this thing called the World Wide Web. You've all heard of that. And wrong one. And also web-based search engines, such as Yahoo, Google, and the little thing I don't know if any of you who are slightly older amongst us can remember, Webferret 2, which used to be an online tool for searching in the mid to late 90s. So, generative AI and LLMs, or large language modules, are they the holy grail of research? Is it? Okay. So generative AI caused quite a bit of a storm sort of towards the tail end of last year. The press was in an uproar about this new technology that was coming on stream, and it was allowing students to write essays, without having to do it the good old-fashioned way. What we have to understand, though, is that the genie is well and truly out the bottle. There's no putting it back. It's out there, and it has to be accommodated. But more importantly, it has to be tamed. So, again, repeating what's said earlier on. As we can see, was using something like ChatGTP here. You can put in a prompt or a question. So, for example, produce an essay on the major influences of Putin's foreign policy. And the genie brings back exactly what we're after, a sort of AI generated output. So it really seems to answer all of our research stream. It seems to be all of our research streams come true, or is it? Again, just to quickly show you, there are other available sources of Gen AI as well. Google Bard is also another system that you can make use of too. Again, the same search was run as I did on ChatGTP with Google Bard, and again, it produced similar results. So I say, or is it? So again, let's just remind ourselves of how it operates. Obviously, we put in a prompt. It looks across a large body of knowledge. Thanks, Tom, for confirming that was the internet, because I was really hoping it was going to be, because I was banging my head against this one. It seemed to be a bit black box from what I've been trying to research about this. But again, on the internet, there are still things out there that we have to be aware of. There are biases out there. There's propaganda and sales pitching out there. There's poor quality information out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Personalization out there, which really changes the scope of things, and there is some good stuff, but fundamentally all of these Gen AI tools have an inability at the moment to critically appraise the information that they bring back. As we've seen, there's a lot of disinformation noise out there. In fact, if you look at the model that ChatGTP uses, where it harvests sort of vast amounts of data, be mindful of scandals like Cambridge Analytica in the past, where there was a lot of micro-targeting using this data to send false and misinformation to those that the algorithm thought it could influence. We've all got biases. We've all got a leaning towards some argument. We have to be aware of that and to be mindful of the fact that with personalization, a lot of this stuff can be served up to us in such a way that we might be blinded to what else is out there. And again, research without any solid evidence is nothing more than conjecture. We all know that when we write or present a bit of research, or if we see an article, we have an argument that we put together. We support that with evidence in the form of articles or journal articles that are out there, or other sorts of grey literature that we might make use of. This gives us a transparent way of showing the evidence that we've used to support our arguments. It gives us some sort of academic legitimacy so that others can go back and retread our steps to see where we've gone. Now, as Tom alluded to earlier on, a lot of the AI tools, in fact, the research shows that when you ask them for references, they bring you back fakes about 60 to 70% of the time. And in fact, the other 30 to 40% of the time, you're probably getting, I think as Tom was sort of alluded to earlier on, you're sort of getting broken DOIs and sort of incorrect author and title affiliation. Also, too, if you're using these tools for sort of summary generation by using abstracts, the research again shows there is a danger of being picked up by plagiarism tools. So the thing is not to be passive with the information that you get back or the information you discover, be it AI or be it anything else. Engage with it. Don't be just a passive consumer. So we need to make, and this is probably what AI has done more than anything now, it's re-emphasized the importance of using what we have up here to critically appraise, to evaluate what we come across, not to take it at face value, almost to introduce a higher form of understanding. So this is where I'm going to introduce an old library test. It was called the crap test, but I'm going to qualify this with an extra E, so it now becomes the crappy test. So again, that basically anything you come back, you want to look at the currency of it. Is it up to date enough? Is it in the right date range that you want to use? And does the particular area that you're looking at require stuff that's current? Remember, a lot of these large language models that AI works upon, essentially used for experiments, may well be limited. So there could be current information that you might not be picking up. In terms of relevance, you need to make sure, obviously, that what you find is relevant to your topic and to your intended audience as well. So you really need to actively engage and evaluate sort of what you come across. Authority. This is probably the key one. Seems the world and his wife can go back into a room at night, knock out something on a blog and pass it off as an online journal. You really need to see the credentials of who's written something. You need to sort of see what affiliations they've got. If you're looking, if something comes back from a website, what's the editorial book set up for that website? All of these things need to be looked at and evaluated. Again, accuracy. Is the information supported by evidence? I showed you earlier on about the use of references. Also, does the language or the tone of whatever comes back or whatever you're presented with, does it come across as being professional, or is it sort of a bit sort of like a ranting? It needs to be really unbiased. And finally, purpose. And this is probably the hardest one to understand. Yeah, is the information out there to sort of extend the academic debate about a certain subject, or is there a more sinister agenda, as I alluded to earlier on with the Cambridge Analytica situation? Again, there could be sort of a propaganda motive too, for many a reason. And finally, the extra E is existence. Does that reference actually exist? It's always a good idea to go and check, because if you're presenting this maybe to a conference or something, somebody checks up on that and it doesn't exist, that's a pretty fast way to end an academic career. Okay. But I'm being really harsh on AI here. I'm a librarian, it's probably inbred. But what it can do is, if you think about it more as a toolbox, there are certain tools that you can make use of. So if you're thinking about, say, creating a question for a research question, or if looking to produce a research question, again, here I put in some AI prompts that will create research questions that look at the extent to which the foreign policy values of the United States and the European Union are shared, towards China are shared. And you can see it brings out a listing of some really interesting titles. I've tried this across several other subjects, seems to work quite well. It's a starting point. It's like a little spark that ignites the flame of your creativity to start moving forward and thinking about where you can take the question next. Also too, and again, I've put in a search here to produce a Boolean search to analyze the question, again, to what extent are there shared foreign policy values between the United States and the European Union in relation to China? Both Google Bard and ChatGPT produced a credible starting Boolean search for putting against the academic databases that we have here. What subjects is anybody from any particular school here today? Just coming off the street? Business? Okay, business. So for example, you can create a sort of a very rudimentary search, which you could run against something like a sort of ProQuest business information, or you could run against Econlit or something like that. And yeah, it'll bring some useful stuff back, but it allows you to build on that. It gives you a sort of a bit of a canvas on which to add stuff to make that search even better and better still. So that's where it's a really good a really good point, a really good tool for sort of thinking about putting together searches of the databases that we have. So think of it as a toolbox, like sort of Google Scholar or like any other reference management tool you might use. AI is just another one that you put in there that you can bring out to look to carry out specific functions as part of your research process. There's a guy called Lee Lefevre who I'm a big fan of. Don't know if any of you have seen his Common Craft videos on YouTube, but as he says, it really is the spark that ignites your creativity. So please think of it in that way. Be careful with it and respect it, and you'll be fine. So to conclude, we've seen that generative AI should be treated carefully. It's not critically aware, so we've got to be open to any kind of biases that it might subject us to, as well as fictitious references. And again, it can offer us some sort of improvement in workflow in generating database searches. But I think more importantly, it really does bring attention to the to the high level thinking and critical appraisal skills that we need to develop moving forward. So I've got a list of my references up there, which I'm more than happy to share. As you can see, they're all CRAP compliant. And there's some lists out here for some other generative AI tools to think about. So thank you. And are there any questions? Stunned into silence. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
The question.
Oh, question?
And when we write an essay, people put the question in the ChatGPT, and they show that the contents that we can use the sentence or anything in our essays, or we need to change those words or something. We need to learn how to use it.
What, using ChatGPT in an essay is the question that if you can take a bit of ChatGPT, what it
rephrase it.
Will it come in under plagiarism or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
I would
I
have
come up to let's say,
Sorry.
so I'm using output from a Gen AI tool without acknowledging it would be deemed plagiarism. The tools available are a bit patchy as to what does and doesn't get flagged at the moment, but yeah, if you put something verbatim from a source that isn't your own, that would be deemed academic misconduct. So it's not saying you can't do it, but what you need to acknowledge is the use of the tools in your work. So if you've used it to help you get to a point, then you need to acknowledge it at the end in your reference section, just to say that you have used this tool. You know, it is a rapidly changing topic, but there are guidance materials been added to the university websites about how to correctly acknowledge and reference when you've used these tools. So there would be differences between completely, taking something verbatim, or if you've used it in another way, perhaps even just to help create bits or content in there, then yeah, there's going to be guidance in different ways about how to acknowledge it.
I think it's also it's about expanding yourself too. I mean, it's about you learning about sort of what you're writing about and putting your arguments down. You don't really want to be relying on a machine or an algorithm to do that.
That's not completely depends on the ChatGPT, or I just want to think is that For example, my topic, I access topic like the leadership, or I just what is the leadership? Is put it in the chat GPT, and there was that several other concept about it.
Yeah.
And this contest just like the contest showed in chat GPT according to some reference, right? They showed it. Maybe we need to put it again in Google Call and find it the reference.
That's one thing I would say is any reference that it cites, sort of going back to my talk just now, is to double check any of the references that are shown. It could be completely fake. Yeah, it could be. And it's sort of not really relying on that, because remember, it's part of the skills that you're developing from coming here is about sort of retrieving this stuff, understanding it, sort of yourself, building that sort of those skills of evaluating something, appraising something, and bringing that into an argument. That's sort of using evidence to support what you're doing. And I think it's almost like you've also got to remember too that I think there's an old saying, standing on the shoulders of giants, which is where where ChatGPT, where these sort of tools will look across a body of information and bring stuff back. It's not recognizing who's actually written that in the first place. It's like if I went out and stole music and I had to take a whole load of stuff from Beyonce, she's going to be after me if she finds out through the courts. So it's just being aware of that.
It's actually also a nice question to segue into Steve's topic, because he's actually going to be speaking a little bit about that concept.
I don't know if I can ask this question or not, but what do you think that after 50 years where AI will stand, and will it ever overtake humanity? Like, I don't know if this question. Come on, man.
I'll be back. No, I think at the end of the day, though, I mean, it's still dependent on algorithms.
Yeah.
Who makes the algorithms?
It does have that chance. So
That's a big one.
This movie called Anchor. I forgot the movie's name. This was like something Ready Player One. So it's shown that it kind of overpowered the normal lifestyle that we are having right now.
I think personally the best way to think about it is when calculators came out in the 60s, everyone was terrified that they were going to make everyone redundant and all of that. It's not just a tool everybody uses, isn't it? Everyone had a calculator to do stuff with. I personally think that there's a lot of noise at the moment about AI and it kind of taking over. I would think in the timescales you talked about, it will become embedded in society. But I think a lot of the doom mongering is perhaps that at the moment. But hey,
but it sells seats at cinema. So that's what they'll do.
Yeah, very true.
Okay.